Did you just throw your phone?
No, I did not throw the phone.
Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Beg Pardon, podcast that dares you to say it again. As always, I'm your host Anthony, joined by Carlos, and welcome to the show. So this week we're going to tackle mental health. There's been a lot in the public sphere in regards to the mental health conversation, whether it has to do with celebrities, whether it has to do with the quarantine and COVID-19 going on. But we just feel, especially at this time, it's really important to discuss mental health, discuss the importance of taking care of oneself, because I think all too often, especially, and I don't know, we'll dive deeper into it a little bit later on, but I feel that previous generations, it was something that shouldn't be kind of talked about openly. So I'm definitely grateful that we live in a time where that's not the case. We are slowly starting to see more and more people come forward and talk about mental health in a non-destructive way, in an open and honest way. So I hope that we're able to do that for you guys today. So Carlos, elephant in the room. You and I are pretty attuned to what goes on in regards to social media and in the news, partly because of the show, and then partly because just human
We're
interest.
alive.
Yeah, we're alive. So Kanye West, what can only be described by many as an episode, a crisis of sorts. But I don't know about you. What I'm seeing, which is a little disheartening, is a lot of people either coming for Kanye or parroting what is happening. And I've seen other celebrities do that. I'm not going to call them out. We're not going to throw receipts up on the screen for you guys because I feel like it's going to be a little destructive to do that. But there are other people coming out and kind of making light of or kind of making fun of this man's situation. I don't know if that's something that you've seen the last couple of days, but definitely something that I've seen.
Yeah, well, I mean, the same thing happened to Britney Spears when she went through her thing. I mean, that was like late night comedy. Everyone was making fun of her for that.
Yeah.
So I'm not shocked that it's happening. It's sad. I'm not shocked. I will admit, the very first video I saw, I thought it was a joke. So I was like, oh, he's just like trying to rally people up. And then I watched like more of it, and I was like, oh no, this is a downward spiral if I've ever seen one. And then I quickly realized this wasn't a bit. This wasn't him like trying to get publicity. This wasn't a, taking the mic from Taylor Swift moment. This was a legit like spiral. And I don't know if, people are kind of like, I lean too far into this joke already. Like, I got to keep going. I lean too far. Or they're kind of like, well, now it looks weird if I backtrack. So they just don't talk about it at all. They just shut down completely, and it's on to the next thing. But yeah, I have seen quite a few people who, made it into campaign slogans, made it into jokes, made it into all this other stuff, comparing him to other people who are running for president, trying to make it seem like, he's not that out there. If you think about like, no, it's apples and oranges.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like he's not doing this to drudge up some kind of attention or anything. Like, he's just in a downward spiral.
Yeah. And I think that what people don't realize in an age of constant connectivity is you just like you said, you see snippets of something and you're like, oh, this is Kanye being Kanye, or this is him making a political statement in an effort to energize people or to psych them out or whatever. But without seeing the full context of something. And as you said, once you started seeing more evidence of what was going on, that quickly changed even the scope of what you were seeing. And I don't think that people are doing that enough. I don't think that people are really they see a clip of something, they see a 7-second sound bite off of Snapchat or Instagram or whatever, and then they kind of like run with it, or they make the parodies with it, and they're not really getting the full sense of what's happening. So I think that's really disheartening. I remember whenever I was a kid, and if I was ever depressed, or I was ever being made fun of, or if I was ever going through anything, any type of emotional trauma or anything like that, once I went home, it was over. Unless home is the one that's causing it. But at that time, home was not causing it. It was at school. But I could come home, and then it's over. We grew up in a time, well, most of us grew up in a time that you didn't have constant connectivity. I mean, we had dial-up, but that was, I mean, there was no Facebook, there was no Instagram, there was no YouTube, there was nothing like that. I was talking even before, back whenever I was in elementary school, there wasn't even MySpace. I think, what was that, Xanga? Had just coming out, but I could leave that if I wanted to.
Sure.
And now you're in a place where young people and even 40-year-old men, Kanye, you're in this place now where it just never shuts off, ever. People can, and boldly so, people can further a ludicrous narrative about you. They can harass you, they can bully you, they can try and demoralize you 24 hours a day if they want to.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the downside to all the advances we've had technologically anyways.
I think in general, I think Twitter, Instagram, all that has been more detrimental to celebrities. And again, I'm not saying like celebrities have such a hard life, but I think it's been harder because now it's so easy to like at a celebrity, and they may or may not see it, but it's so easy for you now to even come to that kind of, like, essentially back in the day, like, you couldn't even write them a letter really because you didn't know where they were or anything. Like, you can write hate mail, but it went through like 4 different people before it got to them. Right. But now, like, you can tweet at them, and if by the stars' luck they're in the front of their phone, they can see it like that. And I think that's why you see a lot of celebrities kind of don't do Twitter anymore, or they take a break from Instagram. I mean, the girl, I'm blanking on her name, she played Rose in the new Star Wars movies. She left Instagram and Twitter because of all the Star Wars fanboys who were bullying her because of a character she played. It wasn't even her. And that caused her to leave social media. So, I mean, it's crazy how twisted and how, you know, brave people have gotten with social media, because it also makes people want to be that first one to get that snap comedy joke in because they thought it was so clever, and they're like, this will make everyone on the internet laugh and like me. No, it won't, dude. You might get 5 laughing reactions and then call it a day. But they have to get that joke out because it's $1 million joke. And I'm just like, is it really? And I think that's kind of the hard thing with social media.
Yeah, or it backfires. I mean, another area where it's hard. So I had went through a mental health crisis whenever I was like 18 to 19, really 18 to like 21 years old. And you know how Facebook will be like, on this day, blah, 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 blah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I want to throw my phone out the window because then it's like a constant reminder. It's a constant reminder for me to now I'm a bit older and a bit wiser, not to post every feeling that I had.
Yeah.
But for 3 years for me, it was literally like if you went through every memory that's on there, it's like this never-ending Evanescence song. And I realized that may not be the best place for me to air my grievances or to one, because I was lucky enough to have people who cared about me to where it frightened them. I'm not saying I'm lucky that they were frightened. I'm lucky that I didn't have people that
Ignored
poked
it.
fun or like didn't do anything ridiculous to me. It was the opposite, and I had people that were caring for me, and they were very worried for my mental health. And just looking back on that now, it's just like, oh my God, I can't escape it, and it's just this constant thing. So I think on the flip side, social media can be detrimental if you are the one going through something, because innately, and back then, I don't want to age myself, but back then, it was like that was the thing, like you were just like woke up.
That was your journal.
Yeah, I woke up, had Captain Crunch, didn't really have enough milk to eat, or drink with it, but I made do. And then you're like, oh man, like Captain Crunch today, he had Wheaties yesterday. Like I'm a Wheaties type of guy. Like, you know what I mean? Like that was just the thing to do, was to narrate your whole. We had just transitioned from the little locket type journal things, and now we're like, ooh, fancy. This is so cool. So it was a poor decision. I just hope that others will listen to this and be like, okay, I'm feeling this. Maybe I shouldn't post every thought that comes into my mind.
Yeah, because I mean, when you do that, you do get people who, they mean well, and they try to, tell you, oh, don't feel that way, that's the worst thing you could say, to be honest. Don't feel that way is the equivalent of telling somebody don't look down. It doesn't work. Automatically, the first thing you do is you're going to look down. And I think, again, the best of intentions people have sometimes when they comment, but it doesn't help you at all. Me personally, story time, kids, for as long as I can remember, and I hid it pretty well, I've had OCD like really bad, really, really bad. And no, it doesn't just mean that I like to clean every little detail. It requires you to wash your hands a certain number of times, to the point where I've washed my hands raw just because I had to hit the number. It requires you to walk in and out of the door a number of times. It requires you to really think about every thought that you have and wonder, is this a real thought? Is this an obsessive thought? Like, do I really feel this way? It's exhausting. So for me, I don't talk about it too much, because it falls into one of two camps. Either it falls into the people who are like, oh, so you're like Howie Mandel. Sure, if that's how you correlate it, then yeah, don't touch me. That's the equivalent. I don't like being handed things. I don't like touching doorknobs. I don't like touching like food that's at like a potluck or anything. Like I don't like that. So if that's how you correlate it, beautiful. The other camp you're in is you say that and people are like, oh my gosh, I'm like OCD when I clean. No, you're not. You're just detail oriented. I get what you're trying to say, and haha, but it sounds weird. Like, that's the equivalent of you telling somebody like, well, I have this problem. They're like, oh my gosh, I have a problem so similar to it, but not really. I'm free from that. But I just want you to know I can relate, because this one time when I do one thing in my house, I'm just like you. And you're kind of like, oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Did you think about that for a long time before you kind of did that? No? Okay.
Well, I think that, a lot of people will try and, I don't know, it's very hard to, people want to relate, right? They want to relate to somebody.
Sure.
They want to relate to their friends, and it's hard for them to relate because, again, we talk about topics that for some reason are like really taboo to talk about. So they don't know how to relate to people, and then they swing and miss, and then they're like, I don't know what to do. I think whenever it comes to, at least in my case, I think every case is different, but in my case, whenever I would suffer like bouts of depression, I think that it's, as somebody on the outside, it's very dangerous to offer unprofessional advice, even with good intentions. It's extremely dangerous. I think that you can try and guide people in a direction to seek help, but I think the era and the time of just rub some dirt on it, get over it, that kind of stuff, that doesn't work. Similar to, and I've had people do this. Oh, like it's gonna be fine. Like let's just go get drunk. Probably not a good idea.
Not probably.
Yeah, absolutely not a good idea. Yeah, or let's go. Like let's just get drunk or let's get high. Like let's just forget about it. And me in my state that I was in, of course, I'm like, all right, like I'll go get shit-faced or I'll get high. And that did obviously help. Because once you come down from that, you're usually in a worse place than you were before. And even though you have these friends that are trying to relate to you and trying to make you feel better or help to make you feel better, it's putting you in a worse position. So I always caution people whenever they either come to me or they come to me about someone else and they're like, hey, I got a friend, X, Y, and Z's going on, and I've been trying to say this, but I don't know how to say it. And I'm like, don't say it. Yeah. Don't. If you're not in a place and they're not in a place, the right place, if you're not in the right place to say it and they're not in the right place to receive it, it's usually going to end poorly. Yeah. So don't do it. And I always advise people, to seek professional help. I think that it's a mistake to. We live in a time of like self-diagnosis and self-therapy, and not getting therapy from actual professionals. Like alcohol was like my therapy for the longest time, cheaper than a psychiatrist or a psychologist, because I wasn't classy or flashy with it. But
I was gonna say, when you tally the bills up, I don't know.
Well, not like going out to a bar, drinking at home. But at the end of the day, it's not helpful.
Right.
If anything. So, I think that people just need to get into a different mindset and saying like, it's okay for me not to be okay. You don't have, especially men, it's okay to not be okay right now. There's a lot going on right now. This world is chaotic right now. And it's a very high stress situation. A lot of us have lost our jobs. A lot of us have been laid off. A lot of us don't know the direction that the country is going. A lot of us have sick family and friends. A lot of us have lost family and friends. And it's just you in this area where, especially if you're somebody like me, and we just came off this like stay-at-home order. That was the worst experience of my life. Like forced to being reflective is very difficult for me. I'm somebody that always has to be going. I always have to be on the move. I always have to be out doing something. So to put myself in that space and then be forced on self-reflection, and have everything else that's going on in the world right now around me, was very difficult.
Yeah, it's really hard. And for me, clearly drinking wasn't what I turned to. So for me, I think it might have been like more destructive because I just kind of like pushed it down and made jokes of things, and kind of, if no one saw it, then no harm, no foul. And I just created this character, so to speak, and I would have jokes mile a minute all the time, just rattling them off, and people so they don't realize what's going on. And I think as time went on, I just got more and more tired of doing that. So then when you flip the script and you're not as funny, now all of a sudden people are like, well, what's wrong with you? You were always making jokes, like, why are you like this? We'll just like snap out of it. Like, no, this is how it was the whole time. I'm just tired now. It was always like this, though. And I think that's the hard thing, is that people, they don't know when to pull that curtain back. Because when you do it, people usually, like, if your friends aren't that close to you, if they're just like friends, they're not tight, thick as Steve friends, and you pull that curtain back, your fear is, are they going to dip out? Like, how are they going to handle this? Or some of your family, you might feel that way. So it's hard. And like you said, I don't seek out people to give my advice to. So I'm not like, hey, I saw you posted this. Let me tell you what I think you should do. Like, I don't do that.
Yeah, saw you were feeling down. Let me.
Exactly. Here's my 12-step program that I came up with.
Right.
What I usually tell people is what worked for me or what works for me. And I preface it with, this is how I deal with it. I don't know if that helps you, but this is how I deal with it. And go from there. Because I don't want them also to say, like, well, you tell me this will work. No. I said, this is what works for me.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of self-reflection for me is good. Because I like to be isolated. I like to try to sort through things just to try to rewire my mind to not be so obsessive, not be so compulsive about things. And I've kind of noticed more and more that the pain that you get from those things is kind of a gift in the sense that it allows you to see people in a new light. It allows you to overcome that and be able to help someone later because you went through that already. So it's the most painful gift you can get, but to me it is a gift because I have gone through things that I wouldn't wish anyone to go through, and I've made it out okay. So, it makes you feel like you'll be okay. Like, regardless of what happens, you will be okay. It's just you have to get over that initial, this hurts, or I don't want to deal with it, I want to face it. Because once you do it and you kind of shut that door, you can open another door to something else. Because for like somebody like me, you always play worst case scenarios in your head. So if you try to face worst case scenarios, it kind of helps in a way. But for me, like, I was never someone who advocated for, like you said, drinking or, smoking or anything like that, because I didn't want to lose any control I had over what my thoughts were like. Because that is my biggest fear. If I don't have control over it, now we have a problem. Because I don't know what's going to happen. So I think that's part of the reason why I've never drank is because of that. Also, it's just
You're not
the
missing
faith.
out.
Yeah, clearly. Thank God there's no videos of me getting drunk or anything.
It's all right.
But yeah, and I mean, lately, in pop culture and entertainment, you've seen more directors and artists trying to turn mental health into the spotlight. The latest one, which was kind of like I don't want to say dramatization, but kind of a little over the top of it, was Joker, was the latest one, where they tried to show you, like, this wasn't a comic book film. This was just somebody who was going through something and ended up snapping because of this. Like, they try to explain that he had, an injury to his brain that caused this mental illness. And he also had, like, bouts of this and bouts of that. Like, they tried to make it more realistic. And they show, like, his therapist he can't go to anymore because it's not funded anymore. So he can't even get the help he needs. And they try to do that. But I think when they do that, it turns away some of the crowd because they feel like either you're not being real about it or this isn't helpful. Like, this is making it seem like it's something glamorous to have, basically. And I don't know one mental health issue that I can tell you, like, it's a joy.
Right.
I've been through quite a few that I've dealt with. You've seen me break down in housekeeping closets, like, literally in the middle of a day, just break down out of nowhere and then come out joking around again. I don't know anyone who would say it's a barrel of laughs. It's a grand old time. So if you're feeling that way and you're watching us or listening to us or anything, if you're watching us, please appreciate the floral print I'm sporting right now.
You guys, he's mentioned this. He mentioned this even before we started filming. So I feel like he really wanted validation, and clearly what I did and said was not enough. So make sure you tell him in the comments how much you appreciate. Maybe you should even send us an email and tell us how much you appreciate his floral prints.
Yeah, send me links to other floral prints. I might wear them.
Yeah.
But if you're watching or listening and you feel like this is a lot to deal with, I promise you, you're not the only one who feels that way or has felt that way. And I promise you, it's going to be extremely difficult road, but it does get better. It does. Not right away, maybe not even a year, but over time, it does get better.
Yeah, one of the things that I learned, a couple things that I learned, is that it's like a constant journey. It's never like I'm all right. It's never I feel better and I feel worse, but it's never I'm fine. Like I'm done. Like I'm perfect. It's fine. It's just a lifelong process. And to that end, I think that's why it's important that you really focus on who you allow in your life. Because while I will spend or have spent 3 years or 4 years in a depressive state or where I was not myself, obviously the people that I surround myself by or meet at that time, and that's our connection, right? Just mutual agony is our connection. I have found that it's very hard for me to have those people in my life afterwards, because that was the one thing connecting, whether that was romantic partners, whether that was friends, like platonic friends. It was very hard for me to keep those people in my life because that was the only thing that connected us at the time, was that like mutual agony. And after I will take the necessary steps to pull myself out of whatever I was in, be like, okay, this is the path I'm going to be on now. This is what I'm going to do. And then they're like, hey, let's go do this. Beg pardon? Like, that's literally what goes through my head, because after I just went through all of that and came out on the other side, that is your suggestion? Obviously, you don't know me. Obviously, and then those thoughts come. Obviously, you don't know me. Obviously, you don't care about me. And then I'm like, well, you don't know me. I wasn't myself. The one thing that tethered us together was this horrible part of myself that I'm trying to move away from. So I think that you have to reckon with that, and you have to realize that it's okay to separate yourself from people that don't align with the way that your life is now, and that's totally fine. And then you also need to separate yourself from people that have enabled past negative behavior. That's fine too. That's fine to have enough respect for yourself and respect for other people as well. And just say, hey, I care about you, I love you, I respect you. I'm just no longer in a place where we can have a positive relationship together, platonic or otherwise. No matter what the situation is, I think it's okay to have those conversations. You just have to be adult enough to have those conversations. That's hard to say, I don't think that this relationship is healthy. It's hard to identify that. It's always the whole hindsight's 2020. Like to say well, now, looking back at it, but in the midst of it or slowly reaching out of it, it's hard to look there and say, this relationship is probably not what is best for me at this time.
Yeah. And that's something that you have to decide. You can't have, your therapist tell you, well, I think you should cut ties with so and so, because if you're not ready to, you're not going to do it. I've seen it numerous times. I've told people numerous times, and it doesn't stick.
I've lived it numerous times.
So, you have to really think that to yourself, am I ready to walk away from this? Because if you feel like if you were honest with the person and you said, this is what's happening to me daily, weekly, whatever, this is what's happening. I need you to help me get from here to here. Can you do that? If they can't get on board or change a part of their lifestyle that interferes with that, then it's time to cut ties. But if they tell you like I'm in the long haul, what do you need from me? Or, they try to deviate from something too, that's great. You can grow together. But I think you have to realize the people who are like, no, I like this. I enjoy doing this. So if that's how you feel, you go about your way. But, not everything is meant for everyone. And if that means, you can't go out with people and party anymore because you have certain triggers, then don't do it. You don't have to live a quote unquote normal life because that's what you think everyone else is doing. Because that's what you see your friends on social media doing, or that's what you see people's Instagram stories doing. That's their life. And that's a part of their life. What you don't see,
sometimes not even real. Like,
what
most
you don't
of the time,
see
not even real. Yeah.
is the crippling debt they probably have.
Right.
Or what you don't see is the family member that probably bails them out financially time and time again. Like, sure, you might see them on planes all the time, but did you know that they're the disappointment at Thanksgiving? Probably not. That doesn't go on Facebook. I don't see those pictures.
Right.
You should. But, if you compare yourself to things like that, it just makes it harder and harder and harder and harder. So like we said at the top of the episode, social media is great. It's great for staying in touch with people. It's great for sharing funny pictures. It's great as an escape. But
listening to your favorite podcast.
Listen to that was a given. That's why I didn't say it. If you treat it though as a journal, and you expect people to really be there for you, you're going to be in for a hard awakening.
Yeah.
Hard, because you will become an inside joke to two other people. You don't know it, but you will definitely become an inside joke to people. And again, I know that people poke fun at, my quirks and habits and all this. I know it. Doesn't bother me. It genuinely doesn't bother me. Because at the end of the day, I've gotten past whatever social anxiety I had with that. I still have anxiety. Don't get it twisted. But I've gotten past the social anxiety of that. And I've also come to terms with the fact that, I have quirks, no doubt about it. I hate germs. But at the end of the day, anybody can catch these hands on any given day. So that's how I handle mine. But not the healthiest, but again, we're growing. That's what we just said. We're learning and we're growing. So
yeah, just for what it's worth, even if you aren't going through any personal crisis at the time, just disconnect for a while. It's healthy. Disconnect for a while. I shut off my phone today, and it was out of obligation because I was asked to, and it made me think, like, this is the first time I've shut off my phone since January. I don't even know. I don't know. My phone's never off. I literally thought that today. I was asked to shut it off, and as I was shutting it off, I was like, I forgot. I didn't even know how to turn it back on. Like, I forgot how to turn it back on. I was like, do I just hit the power button? Do I hit the power and down button? Do I hit the power and up button? Like, how do I turn this thing back on? That's scary. And I was like, I should not have this level of connectivity all of the time.
Yeah.
Not for any mental health reason, but just to disconnect, to not be around it all of the time. Yeah. We work now in an environment where, you and I are constantly connected. If we're not recording episodes, we're prepping for recording episodes. We're talking about recording episodes. We're sending each other information, research information about what we're going to be talking about. We're constantly online, and it can become overwhelming. And from somebody who hasn't had, the best track record for mental health, this has even been an experience for me. This has been a journey for me. We haven't mentioned it, and I don't know that we were going to, because we've never talked about it. But Carlos and I, one of our episodes was the subject of like this weird like fake beef, like fake fight or whatever. And so this other podcast came out with an episode where they critique other podcasts, but they only talk about the things that they did not enjoy and that they didn't like about the podcast. And some of the things that they were mentioning about our show, I was like I feel like I'm hurt. Why am I hurt? Like why am I feeling a lot of anxiety right now that I'm being like attacked? I remember calling you right as soon as I saw that we were tagged in this, and I was like, I thought we were too young, like our show was too young to have like Instagram drama. Like I was like, how is this happening? And it was on such a light scale, and I handled it so poorly. To think like, wow, how, like, you mean not everyone loves our show? Like, as naive as that came off, like, I obviously know that not everyone loves our show, but it's very easy to surround yourself with positivity like we do whenever it comes to this show. And we talk about milestones all the time. We talk about, I was even looking before the show started, like right before the show started, Africa is still the only continent we haven't like penetrated yet with the show, and that's really starting to drive me crazy. But it's really cool to know that there are so many people from all around the world that are listening to the show, and it's very easy to surround myself with that positivity. That whenever I experienced this, I was like, whoa, how did this happen?
Yeah.
And why is this happening? And why are they being mean? Like it was an evolving conversation. It went from like being hurt to being confused to being mad to being vengeful to being mad to being mad. Like I'm just really glad that our phone conversation is not a part of this episode, because we'd probably lose the show. We'd probably lose the show. So
100%.
But yeah, I mean, even us doing this, I have to like constantly check myself and be like, okay, it's a different platform. Yeah. It's a completely different environment to where we're getting messages and feedback from people who like the show, who don't like the show, who learn about us, who learn about themselves from watching the show, and realizing that we're reaching thousands of downloads. And it's just now such a different, it's just a different experience and a different environment that I have to even prep myself for now.
Yeah. And like you said, I'm glad that call was not recorded.
Yeah.
Because I can promise you all, I was ready to just completely...
Yeah, you were more mad than me.
Yeah, because that's part of it, is that I go from like, I don't get hurt, I just get really angry.
Yeah.
And I take it on a personal level. And I think that's what
so
happened.
do I, and I shouldn't have.
Yeah. Like that's how I even deal with anxiety. Like when I get anxious, I just get really angry and really annoyed. I don't get nervous. I don't get like, oh my gosh, are they thinking about me? I don't think like, are they thinking about me? In my mind, I know they're talking about me. And now I'm pissed because you had the audacity to even think about talking about me. Like that's how my anxiety gets. So when that happened, I was upset. And again, for all of you who are like, what's this beef? It literally, we didn't know about it. Like it was something that just happened because, we were trying to promote the podcast, whatever. It was our fault, but it was their fault for thinking it was 1995 and let me go in my fanny pack and pull out a fake beef to promote my podcast. So shame on them. Shame on us, shame on them. But yeah, it was a telling time for both of us because we both realized we reacted to this far more harshly than we thought we would.
Yeah, it's a different it's a different environment that we're in now. Like being in a and again on such on a much smaller level than a lot of content creators and a lot of shows, but to now be like in a more public sphere and think about like to have somebody to have people that we don't know, and then I wake up again, maybe I shouldn't have my phone on all the time. And then Instagram, and people are like, what's this? What's this? What's this? Okay, what is this? Oh. Let me call Carlos. Like it was just a very telling experience. It's a very telling experience for me, and I'm sure Carlos too, on navigating this new environment that we're in and different things that we can do and things that we can do better to handle this. And like we said at the beginning of the show, it's a constant evolving journey. Like it's a never-ending journey until we die. And I just think that it's important that you just maintain perspective, and you do what's right for you, even at times whenever it's difficult. And I think that's the most important thing that I could say from any of this, is to just take care of yourself. So make sure that you give us a like on this show, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. All of our social media links and some helpful mental health links will be in the video below. And thanks for tuning in today.
And if you want to hear the audio version of this and not enjoy my floral print, you can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and pretty much anywhere else you listen to podcasts.
Except Pandora. We're still not on Pandora. Somebody reach out.
Goodness.
Yeah, we need a team of signatures to send to Pandora. No, I don't know why. But we're still under review. So if any of you guys are listening to Pandora, and maybe we'll be on there soon. I don't know. We're still being.
If we don't, we'll never endorse Pandora. So don't listen.
This will be the last time you heard me say. Yeah, this will be the last time you heard me say it.
Exactly. But that will do it for us on this week's Beg Pardon. As always, he's been Anthony. I've been Carlos. Remember, be kind to yourself. Just because you stumble on the path doesn't mean you completely lost it. Until next time.